Welcome, everybody, to this week's Distressed Property Call. This podcast and broadcast is brought to you by Home Loan Advocates. That's right, my partner David Bartel at Home Loan Advocate. They specialized in distressed property solutions for buyers, sellers, investors, and realtors across the country. Doesn't matter where you are, doesn't matter the situation you're in. If you're working on a distressed property and you need some assistance, call 805-413-8000. Again, that number is 805-413-8000. Ask for David Bartels or visit homeloanadvocates.com. Or if you'd like, send David an email at david@homeloanadvocates.com. This episode is also brought to you by Monster Marketing. That's right. That's the reason this call started and why we do it each and every week. Monster Marketing. It is a direct marketing method that I created to get face-to-face with people that have missed payments. It's literally 3% of the market, some more in other areas, but Monster Marketing guarantees face-to-face results with these people. We will give you proven step-by-step coaching, training, and mentoring so that you can convert those individuals into listings or deals, depending on being a realtor or investor. If you would like to find out more, go visit honish.com. That's HONISH.com.
It's uplifting. Hi, everyone. Welcome to your weekly call. Lee Honish, David Bartels. I almost said Andrew Labouche. I don't think I've ever dropped that name doing this broadcast with you. Have I done it? Man.
You've met. Well, that's the only way I know I know who the guy is. I don't know who he is though.
So we've been doing bonus content probably every other day or so, and I was talking to a friend about this. They go, "Why are you doing so many shows?" I said, "My little part to make people happy. If BiteNet Radio makes people happy, and it makes them forget about being trapped in their house, who am I? We'll just do more of it." Well, I've seen it online. In fact, I kind of want to talk about that. I've seen that online. First of all, David Bartels is with Home Loan Advocates. Tell everyone about Home Loan Advocates. Let's do the gratuitous plugs.
Okay, well, we're a national network of like-minded real estate agents and investors who are committed to helping homeowners understand what the alternatives to foreclosure are. And we work with them on a gratuitous basis, pro bono, I think is the right term, to help them solve those problems and sometimes transition out of their house and into a new house. And those people want to talk about short sales and foreclosures, those kind of things. I am at 805-413-8000, 805-413-8000.
Now you get the second gratuitous plug because Doug Ranger already brought it up. David, are you still looking for real estate agents?
A realtor
that I know is from church and has been looking. He's a former appraiser and he did loans in the past.
Yes, I'm actively interviewing and trying to hire like 5 people right now, salary plus commissions. I need them all over California. The closer they are to my proximity, the better, though, at least in the beginning. But yes, we are.
And how did they get a hold of you?
Well, for that, that's our new company, which is becoming Everhome Real Estate. See, that's a bombshell news right there. Everhome Realty, and you can reach me at 805-379-3300, 805-379-3300.
There you go. My name's Lee Honish. I am a marketing professional. I specialize in getting people more of what they want. So no matter how you hear this, no matter who you are, if you want more, that's what I do. I get leads. I don't get deals. I don't close deals. That's on you. But I do get you a steady stream of more leads. With that said, I will give an example of my skills. Armando Contreras writes, what's a good company to send email blast? MailChimp sucks. Well, being a guy, it kind of does. It's not a bad question. My absolute go-to, if I'm not spamming, by the way, there's a difference between spamming and email. There are two different things. Email currently doesn't have a really strong rate on spamming right now. In fact, I knew this from the last car event that David and I attended. Feel free to go see that in the archives at coachingcalls.info. You can also sign up for this call. But after talking to all those different people that I actually know in the industry, we all agreed that spam emails, which is like broadcast blast to the entire real estate community or homeowner communities or however you do it, if they are not solicited emails, they have an extremely low response rate. Now, to answer Armando's question, if I could only use one, I'm telling you my go-to day in and day out when people ask me is Constant Contact. They have the highest deliverability rate. They are expensive, and they will know if you've been naughty or nice, which is why they don't allow me to be part of their service. There you go. With that said, if you would like to learn more about how to get more of what you want, email service, text broadcasting, definitely social media seems to be the ticket right now. Go to Honish.com, fill out the form. That's the only thing on the website. All you got to do is type in Honish.com. There's a form, fill it out. Tomorrow, David, I am going to be Lee the Banker guy again for the I think fourth consecutive week. And for those of you who don't know, I am the former head loss mitigator for IndyMac Bank's HELOC division. And apparently, times they be a changin', in the words of a famous singer. And we're going to be talking about forbearance agreements, and we're going to be talking about alternatives to foreclosure. And it brings up a very important question. The education process I'm not worried as much about people who are not going to make their mortgage payments. I'm very seriously worried about next month with the June and July first round of forbearance agreements, not the ones who got the really nice one that tacks onto the back of the loan. In fact, I will say this. I had a friend who said, I qualified to refinance down to like 3%. He's someone in Vegas. And I said, take it. That's a deal. Just take it. That's literally a no-brainer. He goes, I want to know what's going to happen with COVID. Should I take advantage of the 3 missed payments? I said, yeah, you miss your first month. I said, I would never recommend anybody to get the words forbearance on their credit. But I said, absolutely, they're going to tack 3 months onto the end of your loan. And if you plan to really live there, then why wouldn't you take 3 months of payments? I said, as I recall, and hopefully you can correct me on this, it's 5 years, right? If you get forbearance on your credit, that's a 5-year knock, right?
I'm not. Well, it depends. So it depends how they report it, frankly. So if they report it as a loan modification, probably not. So these are all questions we don't know. But yes, it will set people back, and some of them are reporting them as delinquent already, even though they're not supposed to.
Yeah, I completely agree. Have you had a chance out there in the Conejo Valley? Oh, by the way, David's also the top broker in the Conejo Valley. Thought I'd throw that in as another gratuitous plug. Have you started to encounter missed payment people yet out there?
Yes, we're hearing some. I just did a blast to all of our sellers in our database. You know, what we positioned as a public service announcement, letting people, trying to explain how forbearance, how they think forbearance works versus how it could actually work. And so we've had a number of phone conversations with people that are in our database, potential home sellers that are now, facing the consequences of not making a couple, 3 payments.
Can you talk about the contents of that email, or is it proprietary?
No, not proprietary at all. It was I think it's an article we pulled off of Housing Wire that basically said that 60% of the forbearance agreements, are Fannie, or the loans are Fannie and Freddie. That forbearance agreement is going to allow them to defer as many as 12 payments, and that they were going to just tack them onto the end of the loan.
But it didn't talk about they're not talking about the credit.
40%.
The credit implication, I guess, is really the bigger deal here, right?
Well, they're saying that it shouldn't. They're saying that it's not supposed to impact their, the credit. They're not supposed to they're not supposed to report them as late for the first 90 days. And if they get a deferral agreement, a forbearance agreement, then it shouldn't report it at late at all. Now, and then the other part of the article was related to the 40% of people who don't have Fannie and Freddie and what might become of them. And it's a thing we've talked about here, a couple, 3 weeks in a row now, is that there's a real risk that those loans are going to end up those deferred payments of 3 months are going to end up being due in the fourth month. And
Right.
that's what we're waiting for. So the banks seem to be sitting on the sideline waiting to see if they're going to get stimulus money from the government to offset the cost. And some of these smaller servicers who still have to pay the mortgage backed securities, the people that are servicing for, they still have to pay the investors, are not able to do that unless they get some subsidy from the government. And whether or not they get that money or not will determine whether or not these banks start foreclosing on people for not being able to make 4 payments in the fourth month.
That brings up a really interesting perspective, right? So, and I don't think we've ever talked about the mechanics of how this all breaks down, right? So let's just assume that there are 3 major lenders for the sake of discussion: Wells, Chase, and B of A. They are the big dogs in the yard, and they're the ones with the biggest amount of money. It is still a warehousing line. The private brokers, the independent brokers are the people who lend out under those names. We're saying in those cases, those could be anywhere from 3 to a 12-month rollover. More than likely, most of these people are going to come out whole. But we're talking about technically a secondary market. We're talking about somebody.
Where'd you go? Lee, you are fading.
The hell? Hold on. Better? Better say Morse.
Better. Well, better.
All right. Okay.
Well, because I can hear you.
Okay,
Before I just heard mumbling of static.
Yeah, weird. And I have a full internet feed. Here's the problem with the internet. We're all.
We lost you again.
And that's not any better. Hold on.
Well, now we can at least hear you.
Yeah, I know. Okay, this should be okay now. We're plugged in. I can always switch back. I just got to watch my microphone monitor. It has to do with the internet. It just does. And it's doing it again. Hear me okay? There we go.
I can.
All right. So Wells, Chase, B of A type loans, people who went to actual lenders or brokers that did warehousing lines, we're saying that those people more than likely are going to be protected based on the current report, correct?
Correct.
So what the 1% that I've expected and talked about repeatedly on this call is the Quicken loans and on down, the private industry $1 trillion portfolios that have gone into the business of lending. Let's say USAA is now a bank. In fact, I saw this the other day driving up in San Diego.
Lost you again. Lee.
I don't know why that's working. Hold on. So what I'm saying is it's the secondary market that we're actually talking about, right, David? Like that is the bigger issue here at hand is I don't think that there's a massive collapse in the making. As a guy who's a former banker who actually understands all of this, I'm not I'm not as concerned about the collapse of Wells, Chase, or B of A. I'm concerned once again with the same thing that destroys banks. The Quicken loans, the USAA banks, as I saw the other day when I got cut off, Mutual of Omaha Bank. That's a real thing.
Right.
Right? We're talking about the secondary market, private banks that don't necessarily have to play by those rules. If you had to project, and a wild guess, when you're talking about secondary lenders, while they are Freddie and Fannie possibly back, because some of them are, is it inconceivable to see the distress market go up by 1 or 2%?
Oh, well, that's likely. I mean, we're definitely going to see a surge in foreclosures, and 1 or 2%, I think, could be mild. I mean, it's not going to be massive like we had in 2008, but this job loss is real, and the stimulus money is going to go away, and a lot of these places of employment that people are hoping are going to open up are not going to open up. I mean, they're saying. I mean, I want to be careful not to quote statistics, but I'm hearing things like 25% of restaurants are never going to open back up again. 20 to 30% of retail stores are never going to open up again. Those will be staggering numbers, to rank and file employees who are going to be struggling to replace that income. And so we've got a number of transactions that are either on hold or canceled now because the buyer, and this is new, because the buyer has lost their job, they've been furloughed or they've been laid off. They hope to be able to get back to work again before they close. So they're not necessarily canceling the transaction, but they're saying, I don't know if we can close. So they're stalling, and they're hoping that if their lender's saying, oh, if your job brings you back on, we'll go ahead and close. But if they don't, then we won't. So that kind of stuff is starting to happen, and it will have an impact on transactions from the buyer side. But the same thing is happening on the seller side. People aren't making their money. They're going to take their 3-month forbearance, and then the 4th month's going to come, and they're either not going to have a job to resume making their payments, or they're not going to have the cash to make the lump sum payment, depending on what their circumstances. So there will be a spike in foreclosures unless the banks get rescued with the cash flow infusion they need to offer leniency to homeowners.
I completely agree with you. Better sound. With all of I just
you sound cozy.
I am cozy. I turned on the big mic. When in doubt, always go to your big condenser microphone and make yourself sound like you're doing a radio show.
Right.
And I just right at the top, mainly because we did a show about podcasting, and I said never and on. I just for all of you. It's better to just let the air happen. I'm just saying that for people that are creating content. By the way, I love the fact that everybody who tried internet content basically gave up after 2 weeks. That to me is still, it's kind of a warm cozy in my universe. I really want to talk about this because what happened before we started this broadcast, David, I'm going to drop a name and you're not going to know who it is. Let's try it out because I know you're not a social media guy nor a real TV guy. You do know what Giordano's and Lou Malotti's is, but
I know important things.
You know important things. I know things. What's the Peter Dinklage line? I know things and I drink. Yeah, it's kind of, in David's world, I know things and I eat pizza. Veggie. Right. Here's how well I know David. I'm right there with his wife and his family. He likes a veggie. He does. I'm going to be honest. I was watching. Do you know who Hassan Minaj is?
Hassan Minaj. I know who Nicki Minaj is. How's that?
That's not bad, actually. So Hassan Minaj, I almost got it wrong. Hassan Minaj used to work on The Daily Show with Jon Stewart and then with the current host,
but he has his own show on Netflix, and he just did a Netflix show on renters. He goes, mortgage people are going to be okay. At the end of the day, you're kind of going to be okay because the federal government's going to step in and take care of that. What his biggest thing on this episode was the domino effect behind companies like Blackstone. And we've talked about this for a long time, right? Because of the 2007 crash, companies like Blackstone stepped in and bought up all the housing, which I've said repeatedly on the show, the reason we didn't have a true crash is because private equity firms bought up all the foreclosures, bought them directly from the bank. And now we're looking at the direct evidence of this. We never truly had a bottom after 2007. With what he was talking about on his episode was it's impossible for renters not to be evicted. They're secured by their own property, like the property owners themselves are secured, and they don't have the same deal because, I mean, somebody like Blackstone literally purchased housing and multi-unit complexes for cash. It's literally investor base. And you know this because I've been going on about it repeatedly for a period of time. If you're a company like Blackstone, David, and people can't pay, and there's no renter's assistant like there is for mortgage people, there is a foreclosure clause. I get that right now, especially in California. How long, if you were you know this now as a publicly traded company that you're working on, how long before you start selling off all your property and get the hell out of Dodge?
I don't know. I was reading an article in the Wall Street Journal yesterday or day before about this very thing where they're accumulating cash, hoping, thinking that the market is going to decline by 20% by the end
so
of the year.
So they can buy more.
Right, right. They're sitting on mountains of cash, looking to do it. And for Blackstone, which is one of the largest investment funds in the world, they are about 30% of their total assets are in real property,
right,
and a lot of which is here in California. So, so I don't know. I'm not feeling right now that we're going to have a big decline, but there's some evidence that the market feels like there's going to, these guys that are smarter than I am by merit of having billions of dollars versus my dozens of dollars, that seem to think that there is going to be a market decline. And if that, if you have delinquencies and market value decline, now that, that creates exponential growth downward, as opposed to the upward or flat momentum that we're used to seeing.
Yeah, I completely agree. The reason I bring this up is, one, to remind everybody that this was my greatest fear, literally. I know I brought it up repeatedly, which is, when does a publicly traded equity firm reach a substantial point to where it is better? And we're seeing it, right? We're seeing Macy, we're seeing JCPenney, we're seeing J. Crew. The one that affected my daughter the most, which is close to David's heart. Soup Plantation's gone, David. Soup Plantation has decided.
No.
Oh my God, McKinsey was just shredded. Her favorite place on the planet. So we're seeing major companies deciding that it's better, right, to let the company go, let it all play out, pay off our executive, pay off our shareholders, get out of Dodge. We have not seen it in the private equity side. And I know that, especially with what's going on the internet, with people saying, no, COVID's not real, it's all 5G, and we're all going to be chipped by Bill Gates. All right, everybody calm down. That's not what's happening here. You really need to have a doctor in your family to have a talk with you. Which, by the way, I have on a daily basis, and she makes me take my temperature every day. The reason I bring that up, One does not a Blackstone, because I imagine them to be the equity equivalent of a Wells, Chase, or a B of A. They're not going to go anywhere, and they're going to wait for whatever happens next, and they're going to buy up whatever falls through the group. What I've always said is the biggest issue from 2007 to 2010. Blackstone's not the only company out there. There are literally hundreds, if not thousands, of companies that bought up real estate, which actually created a quicker bottom in real estate. And we're not looking at this forward, right? I really have been trying to push this. I finally at one point got Darren Blomquist to agree with this. We never hit a true bottom from the 2007 catastrophe. What we did was allow private equity firms to start creating, and by the way, go watch the Hassan Minhaj piece on Netflix, and he does a really amazing job of explaining how these private equity firms, instead of trading mortgages, they started trading renter-backed mortgages, basically, and reselling them to the secondary market. My question is, we're in the same boat again. Property is property. So I don't care if it's commercial. I don't care if it's residential housing. What I find amazing about everything is that even NAR is doing this. We're focusing on day-to-day sales. You know what? Sales are up. Prices are substantially right in line. They're only moving up 1 or 2%. But why is nobody looking forward? From your perspective, David, is everybody just tossing a blind eye to what's going to happen? My projection, what's going to happen in July when the first round of this really hits the market?
Well, they're reporting sales. They're reporting data, and so I think that some data that I saw from the California Association of Realtors, a presentation they did for association managers, they're predicting that in California, which is where I pay a lot more attention to, obviously, that sales are going to decline. They were up Q1, they're going to be down Q2, they're going to be down Q3, and then they're going to be up Q4. And but we're going to end up being down overall by 20%. And they are saying that prices are actually remaining steady because the restriction of supply that we have right now. But then NAR predicted prices were going to come down 8 or 9% by the fourth quarter, which was a surprise to me because I figured, I was thinking that if we got through the summer okay and everything held, that would be a foundation for which prices would continue to stay flat to slightly up or flat to slightly down. But an 8-9% decline in prices would be significant here in California. So I don't know. I mean, I'm confused. I've been very certain that things were going to be fine, and buyers are going to just come roaring back. But the stuff that you're talking about here this morning, makes me feel like maybe unemployment is going to be long. People aren't just going to wake up and restrictions are lifted, everybody goes back to work. And maybe there's not, and as a result, maybe there's not going to be enough buyers out there to absorb the inventory that sellers are waiting for restrictions to be lifted to put on the market. And if that happens, that would be a combination that would certainly cause sellers to start competing with each other and drive prices down to compete for fewer eligible buyers. So
I'm going to be honest. I never saw the COVID crisis coming. I mean, I do pretty good.
Well, who did?
Right. I completely agree. The reason I bring it up, we're an economy based on circumstance, right? So after 9/11, there was a circumstance that affected the market. We had something in 2007 that caused a circumstance. These things are very real. This COVID crisis, which is very real. I didn't predict this. I do pretty well at seeing where it's going to go. And you know this because I've talked about it repeatedly on coaching calls. My greatest fear, since 2008 and 9 doing these coaching calls, 2010 forward, has always been, what do private equity firms do when the market starts to decrease, right? From 2010 to right now, we've literally blown up the market in real estate. We made it one of, I think the net value of real property is better than water, which they at one point said was the highest commodity. Now it's information technically. But if you're a publicly traded company, and I know you get involved in this, and I would love to know your wife, who is way smarter than both of us, as a trader or a person involved in understanding the projected value, right? That's basically what the stock market is. We're trying to project that this is going to maintain or be a steady growth. I don't believe it's going to be Blackstone. It's just too big. I'm talking about everyone else, everybody else who's one ring down. The reality is, if I owned a bulk of real estate and I had any fear, literally any fear of the real estate market, at what point do they start liquidating property to pay off their shareholders and maintain the value of the stock? And that's always been my fear since, I know Democrats don't like this because I don't believe this is political. I think under the Obama administration, I think it was a brilliant move to stabilize real estate, to allow the formation of private equity firms to work directly with the banks and to buy up properties. It destroyed real estate. It took half the inventory literally away. We should have probably have tumbled all the way down, let real estate agents sell them off one at a time, keep the whole cycle and process that I remember when I started, and I don't want to date myself. When I started in 88, you were just a little company that handled like a little area of California, and you sold those properties and you made as much money as you could. And you had a group of real estate agents and they worked with you. You were the go-between between you and a secondary lender or a bank. This time around, we sold off all of the available REO inventory in bulk to massive, massive privately traded equity firms. And now we're at another crisis point where people are unemployed. Renters don't have the same protection as mortgage people. And we've talked about this, right? There are way more renters than there are people who own real property. This is a very weird domino thing that we're about to approach. And the first round, based on my math, David, June, July, like the wheels are going to come off the wagon here really shortly.
Well, I don't know. I wish, you might be right. I just don't know. Frankly, I don't know. It doesn't feel like we're going to have a big adjustment one way or another. But there's certainly a lot more downside risk than upside potential. That's for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that. The reason I bring that, by the way, for those of you who don't know, please give your bona fides of your wife before I ask my question, because your wife is amazing. And she should be respected at this moment.
Yeah. Well, she's a vice president at Morgan Stanley and manages about $300 million in private assets with full discretion for about 500 individual clients. So
we have a large broadcasting audience, and for the sake of discussion, that literally makes this the smartest household in America between David and his wife.
Oh, I don't know about that, but
I picture you both every evening just staring into laptops with phones next to you.
Oh no, we actually have real conversations about the mechanics of business in the world and the stock market and real estate. Yeah.
When this is all over, I want to be a part of a dinner at Mastro's and actually watch that up close. I would love to just pick her brain. Okay, we haven't done that yet. By the way, thank you, COVID. With all of that said, what is her feeling? Because she's literally got a finger on the pulse of the stock market. And I know you guys in real estate who are listening to this going, what does the stock market have to do with real estate? David, it has everything to do with real estate, does it not?
Well, it has a lot that's certainly influenced by it. And, people are always looking for safe havens. Where do you put the money? Where do you generate long-term, wealth? And you look at, is it real estate? Is it the stock market? What do you, is it bonds? Is it banks? Where do you put the money? And so, both real estate professionals and stock market professionals make the case for their platform, being safe ways. I can tell you that the theories are similar, that when she and I talk about it, or I overhear her speaking to somebody else about the stock market and investing, her response is pretty consistently the same. And that is, you shouldn't invest money that you might need within 10 years. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. She has a tendency to be, pretty conservative. And I know that's true, and that's true of real estate too. You can't, most real estate should not be bought unless you're planning to be in it for, a while, unless that you're buying it at a discount to market. I mean, and that's what stock market people are always doing. They're always looking at what they think that the current value is versus the price, and then they're also looking what the future value is relative to the price. And so if you can buy an underperforming stock, in terms of price being lower than value, that you think is going to end up doing really well over time, those are the combination of those are the types of transactions you want to do. That is true in real estate too. Everybody, you're always looking to buy at a good price and buy something that's going to have a solid appreciation over time, so that you end up making a profit. But most people don't look at real estate as an investment. They look at real estate as a home, as opposed to the stock market they look at as an investment. So it ends up, depending on your perspective, really depends on where you're going to, put your money. I know that when I buy my own home, it doesn't matter whether or not, I'm not going anywhere for a long time, whether or not the value goes up or it goes down 5, 10, 15%, either way. It doesn't make a hill of beans difference, other than make me feel good if it goes up, and make me feel, well, whatever if it goes down. So I don't know. I don't know the answer. A lot of it has to do with why you bought the thing in the first place.
And I agree with that. So the reason I bring this all up, it all is playing into what's about to happen. So if we're talking about this for the people on the call or people listening, and by the way, if I told you the audience, David, you would probably be shocked by the number of people that listen to you on a weekly basis, even though I know you have nothing to do. We're talking about real estate as
I have no idea, Lee.
Oh my God, it's an enormous number. This show is hugely successful. And I apologize for all the commercials, but let's be honest. It's content. Just if you have to, fast forward through the commercials. I mean, I don't pay for them. They pay for the platform. The reason I bring it up, real estate is a commodity, right? And we're not seeing this correctly. It's literally a Lego piece. It's literally a hotel on Boardwalk. It is a tangible substance that everybody dreams about. And you have basically two groups in the world of real estate right now. People who tangibly own real estate, can't imagine letting it go. And then you've got this other market, right? The Blackstones of the world, where they literally have tens of millions, and based on this Hassan Minaj thing, literally tens of millions of people who aren't able to make payments that are going to affect their tangible property. And what I've been saying and documented, and nobody seems to jump on board, and I didn't realize it would be COVID that would make this happen. We're getting to a point where we're devaluing, quote unquote, the value of gold or the value of water or the value of information. It's a commodity, David. Real estate is a commodity. And if I'm a Blackstone type equity firm that went into the business of being a publicly traded company, and I own, let's just go for the sake of discussion, Ohio, right? And I see my value slipping. Once the slip starts to happen, and I know most people don't know this, I knew that the market was sideways in 2006. I knew it when I was at IndyMac, because the first deals I looked at were in central United States. They were Ohio, they were Indiana, they were places like that. They were the heartland of America. And if you're wondering politically how that works, that's because those are the people that get affected first. They have lower income wage jobs, their housing is cheaper, everything is adjusted. But once those people are affected, it's easy for, it's tiring, David. I'm tired by it all. I mean, I get that this is our day job, but I'm tired by it of explaining, well, yeah, I mean, I don't want to break it to you, but central United States is predominantly white. They lost their houses. They're losing their income. They're losing their job. So when Trump goes on TV and says, drink bleach, they drink bleach. And they're the first people to vote for him. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm strangely gotten to the point, because I have to deal with marketing on a daily basis for people, to explain that you've really got to understand that it isn't about your area. It's the feeling that is national. Fox, MSNBC, CNN aren't affected by David in the Conejo Valley or Los Angeles area, like many of you on this call, or me in San Diego. We're special. We're special. We are. We live in amazing areas that have amazing real estate. Okay. What affects average is what's said on the weekly news. And the minute these people start going on the air and saying that real estate valuing, or that renters are going to get evicted, or people took the wrong forbearance agreement, it's going to create a panic. That panic will filter up, okay, to investors who are spending money on companies like Blackstone. And here's the really sad part, David, and it was my fear in 2008, 9, and 10. It's still not going to filter down to 1 million real estate agents to get, new listings. It ultimately, by removing that secondary REO market, which is what I grew up on and how I learned how to do real estate, that is not tangible, resellable property anymore. And that, I know, there are only few people who agree on this. The REO market is what created the higher prices today. They eliminated it by selling it in bulk to very large firms. And as a former banker and now a guy who does marketing, I look at that and I get this question every day. How do I get involved in the REO market? It doesn't exist. Or I'll tell you the other email that I received recently, David, which is my favorite. I've got literally hundreds of millions of dollars to invest in real estate. Do you have any contacts, Lee? You don't have enough money. You don't. You're not. The difference between millions and billions is staggering. Like the amount of money we're talking about. And I have sat at dinners with people who have millions. It's a nice dinner. And I've sat at dinners with people who have billions. And I've only done it once. And they had the SBA portfolio to invest. They actually got a meeting with Angelo Mazzillo, who laughed him out of the room. It's night and day. That's it. It's a staggering amount of money, and everybody is primed. And I read a Wall Street Journal article. The Hassan Minhaj report talks about it as well, which is we're coming up on a once in a generation moment. It's not going to be tangible property to property. It's going to be these bulk sales of either multi-units or grouped residential homes. I don't see how it doesn't have an effect on real estate. I think the point of these calls that I keep trying to bring up weekly is, why aren't you guys doing anything to brand yourself? You do distressed properties. Even Hassan in his report on Netflix, ranked number 10 right now as a show to watch on Netflix. Okay, this current episode. They use the word distressed properties. Why aren't we all branding ourselves as homeowner advocates who work on distressed properties? I see a huge window of opportunity for real estate professionals to basically reinvent themselves. You can't work on REOs, but you can work with commercial, residential, multi-unit, whatever terminology you want. I'm not here to piss in the wind about terminology. The reality is there are a lot of people who want housing, and there are a lot of properties that are going to become available. And I believe that those that are going to win from a marketing standpoint, David, are people who understand the word distressed and what it really means. There are real people involved in all of this. And whether or not we like it, we are either going to create literally tens of millions of people who are homeless, or we're going to find them housing, or tens of millions of available properties because they're liquidating them. There are things that are going to happen in the next 6 months that are very, very real in the short term. And I'm shocked on a daily basis, especially our coaching group, people that are kind of around me, kind of the people that I've seen in real estate. I don't believe that they think this is really going to happen. Am I crazy?
No, I don't think you're crazy. I don't. There's a lot of opinions out there really right now. I try to focus on what we know, but not be completely unaware of what might happen. I think the people that are just really focused on taking the time to find out what people want and helping them get it are going to just do better in any environment. Listen, the truth of the matter is we gotta make a living when the market's going up, when it's going down, when it's going sideways, and when we don't know where it's going. And the best thing you can do is continue to stay aware of what some of the different options are, and then have an intelligent conversation about why it might go up, why it might go down, and based on whatever the objectives are, help people go faster or slower in order to make that happen. So I think that we try, we're trying to figure out something that we've got a opportunity to get right, but probably not. Like a clock is right twice a day. We could probably do those numbers too.
I hate to do this because it's kind of not me. So don't everybody quote May 20th in history. But it's in the NAR Code of Ethics. I would assume that all of our agents are realtors with the big R. I would imagine the people that are listening to this are big R's. Even the investors, you should probably maintain the big R. And I'm going to quote paragraph 2. Such interest impose obligation beyond of ordinary commerce. They impose grave social responsibility and patriotic duty to which realtors should dedicate themselves. That's it. I don't need to read the rest of the paragraph, David. It's our responsibility to be advocates if we work in real estate. We're not here to make just money.
For sure. You can't make money if you're not looking out for your clients.
I agree. I mean, the reality is you and I have both encountered people who believe, well, I'm just going to bust down the front door and go make myself a cup of coffee, start taking pictures of the property and tell them I'm going to be their listing agent. Good for you. The reality is for people to be successful, you've literally made your mission statement, the value of your company. I would love for you to talk about this. You've made this about people and not about it's a commerce thing, it's a mechanical thing, this is about real estate thing, this is about an investment thing. At the end of the day, when this is all said and done, and why I say that all of you listening to this are better at real estate than me, and yes, I've held the license, I'm not good at it. You really have to connect with the clients and understand that day to day, this is a very real thing with very real people, and you really are an advocate. And if you're not, I've seen it literally a million times with cold callers, even including my family's property in Monterey Park. They were building a bunch of independent investor properties on the same street. And for some reason, I was getting all the properties phone calls, and I was talking to these people. They're just grinding me down. Well, what do you want? What do you want? How much money do you want? What do you want for the property? Your experience now, having built a company, you're creating a public company, you've got a mitigation company, David. You're in one of the most competitive real estate markets on the planet. in the Conejo Valley with some of the highest dollar figure properties in all of California. At the end of the day, has being a people person and connecting with people and relating to that on Facebook and social media and creating a brand, has being an advocate been the hallmark message?
Well, I would say for sure. I don't know any other way to do it. I mean, my business philosophy is really simple, and that is to take the time to find out what people want and spend the rest of the time helping them get it. And sometimes that means inventing new products. Real estate is a classic example of this, where it's been done one way forever. Okay, I'm not sure how long forever is. Maybe World War II.
Well, in my case, since I go back the furthest based on the call, 86 at least. 86.
Yeah. Right. So it's been done the same way. I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example of this. I'll give you two examples if you want. I don't know how much time we have, but
we have plenty of time, David. I think this is
one
important.
example. Yeah, one example is just look how technology is impacting real estate. So if you take a look at how technology is impacting real estate, in the old days, before the internet and before the multiple listing service, the way that it worked is who you hired to represent you as a buyer was very important. You needed somebody hyper local, somebody who had relationships, and you would meet with them, you tell them what you want, and then they do some homework for you, and a few days later said, okay, I think I found 3-4 houses we need to go look at, and then they schedule showings and they go out. Today, I think this goes without saying, but today when they don't go sit and talk to a real estate, and then the real estate pulls out of their magic bag, listings. They go to they don't even talk to a real estate in the beginning. They go to any number of public portals, Zillow as an example. They put in a few keystrokes, and next thing you know, there's a whole bunch of pictures of houses. It's turned into online dating. The way people shop for houses. You put your criteria and bam, there's some photos of some beautiful houses, and then you call your agent and you email them, or you just call the agent on each individual property and say, I'd like to see these houses, and off you go. And even though the buyer is doing most of the heavy lifting now of identifying the properties, real estate buyer agent compensation has not gone down. And what you're going to see in these lawsuits that are taking place, that are growing and growing and growing, and I don't think NAR helped themselves with a clear cooperation policy where you have to put it in the MLS. Now, even if it's against the homeowner's wishes, which is, absurd to me, and they're already being sued for collusion. This only complicates that in my mind. I digress. And so now what? now what happens?
We have a platform, David. Feel free.
Is buyer agent compensation hasn't gone down, and so what happens is when the court ends up ruling that one or two or both of these things will happen, is that they're going to have to start disclosing what the buyer agent compensation is. And when buyers realize that they're paying an extra $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 for a house to offset the compensation for their buyer agent to help them buy a house that they found, I'm not taking away the hard work that agents do. I do it every day, not discounting the hard work that agents do every day in order to get that deal in escrow, and then to work through all the 9,000 details that have to get trimmed in order to get that transaction to close. But there's a perception that all you do is open the door and handle the paperwork, and people just aren't willing to pay $15,000-$20,000 to do that. The other thing is that every other industrialized country in the world, and I've researched this in Australia, Canada, the United Kingdom, Ireland, and Israel. And when you look at all of those countries, the buyer pays for their buyer agent. That's what's coming to the United States. The only reason it hasn't happened now is that is NAR, the lobbying, the largest independent business lobbying group in the country. They've done a good job of convincing homeowners that the more expensive your house is, the more it costs to sell your house, even though there's lots, even though technology makes it a lot more cost effective and efficient for agents to be able to do those transactions. Technology is changing the law, and the courts are going to change the way business is done. Yet these companies are going to continue to fight and lobby and influence because their business models do not work unless they can charge these big 5-6% commissions. Now, on the selling side, what I find interesting is that there is commission compression, but it's not on the buy side of the transaction. The commission compression is coming on the list side of the transaction. So you'll see a bunch of agents out there that'll do 4.5%, but they're still offering co-op agents 2.5%. So the listing agent is going out there really having to hustle hard, spend a lot more money to get the listing and then to get that listing properly marketed. And you're seeing commission compression come down on the list side. Yet when you take a look at the real estate industry as a whole, you see that there are actually two different segments. You've got the for sale by owner segment, and you've got the full service segment. So you've got 8% of transactions last year. It hovers between 7 and 8%. It's been that way for a long time. 7-8%. It was 8% last year of people doing for sale by owner. 92% are full service. And the rub here is that the technology totally exists for sellers to sell their home themselves, to leverage technology just like buyers do in their home search. Yet that technology is not available to them because realtors hang on to it. Thank you again, NAR. Realtors are holding on to that, and realtors offer two advantages to sellers that sellers don't have. Number one is exposure to the multiple listing service. And number two, expertise in negotiation, paperwork, disclosures, escrow, title, contingency removal, renegotiation, all that stuff. And
ultimately,
so, but
the human element, David. I mean,
right, and but
really what we're talking about.
But the reality, it's still cost less. So what
right.
so for those people who are wondering what we're doing that's so darn revolutionary over here is two things. Number one, if it takes the same amount of time, money, and effort to sell a $300,000 house as it does the cost to sell a $600,000 house, shouldn't the fee to sell both houses be the same? That's the first question. We think the answer is yes. The second thing is that if the second thing is that if sellers want to do the work, why not give them the opportunity to do it? So we're creating a new company called Everhome. We've been created first in the industry. We're creating a new market. What percentage of people that do full service, full fee listings would do it themselves if they just had a little help? They're just afraid to do it all by themselves, and there's no alternative but to go to the other end of the spectrum. What we're doing is creating a third market we call for sale with owner. And for sale with owner basically means that when they hire us, they pay $450. They end up in the multiple listing service. So they get the same exposure if they hired a listing, but they maintain the elements of for sale by owner, the flexibility, the control, obviously the cost savings. But the big difference is that they have a real estate agent that's coaching and counseling them. And when the offer comes in, okay, it comes to the agent, it comes to us, not to the seller. And we step in and provide full service representation. We get that transaction done and get paid another $2,500 at the close of escrow. And we've been test marketing this for some time. And I bet many of you would think that it's highly successful, and the answer is it is. People love it. Sellers love it. There's going to be a third market. We're building that technology so people can literally list their home themselves on the MLS with an iPhone app, with an Android app, even take photos and upload it from there. and that's how we're revolutionizing real estate, and that's the company and the concept and the technology that we're taking public as Everhome Realty. And
Geez,
that's
David. Wait, hold on. Geez, David. How do I get involved with that? By the way, I'm just doing that for the president who might listen and
I
not
would love. I
understand
wish I could see
sarcasm.
everybody.
David, how do people get involved with this?
Yeah, well, they could call me, 805-379-3300. You could email me, David at helpyousellfullservice.com. We tried to buy the Help You Sell franchise to be able to get this done. That's, the big secret that we had there for a while. And we had a letter of intent out, and at the last minute, they decided they were going to change the terms, and we walked, and we decided to go it alone. And we're looking to buy offices and teams and books of business and rebrand them under the Everhome name all over the country. So this is the reason why we're immediately looking for salaried people to help us with both our full service options and our for sale with owner options, and really kind of rolling it out in California, with an objective by next year to start to get into all 50 states.
There you go. With all of that
I've
said,
had that on my chest for a long time, holding it from this audience, Lee.
you know what, David? You did very well. As I've been aware of it for about a month since you were actually debating it. I thought the most amusing part was you were going to buy Help You Sell. Jeez, that's
Right.
a big get. This is bonus content. Normally we cut off right here. I'll tell you to go to Honish.com. I'll do your marketing. And by the way, go to Honish.com and do your marketing. I'm going to do a different ad for me. Tomorrow, for everybody on the call, go to Lee Honish webinar. I'm going to be Lee the Banker guy tomorrow. Lee Honish webinar. It'll take you straight to the Facebook page. We're going to do a Zoom meeting. It's going to be me and Fred Solomon and one other person talking about what happens with the current forbearance agreement. And for those of you that are regular coaching students and some of you listening to this alternatively, Fred's probably our go-to guy when we need a loan somehow, some way, right, David? I'm trying to put Fred over, who is just probably the biggest teddy bear that we've worked with throughout the years.
Listen, if you need something done that's not straightforward, Fred would be the guy to call. He knows all the angles, so I'm telling you.
He is a great guy. He's a great human. David and I very rarely work. I think our circle is down to what, 3 people, 4 people that we actually recommend and people that we actually like. What are we up to? Our huge circle is, if you need technical advice, find Darren Blumquist. He'll tell you what the market's really doing. If you need loan help anywhere in the United States, go to Fred Solomon. And if you need an investor, I mean, I hate to say it, but Robert is still the end all. By the way, it's Robert Forgo, so you can find him on social media. He'll work with you or find someone to work with you. That's kind of our circle here with distressed properties. We don't talk about it often, but throughout the years, David and I have sat in the back of the room and watched people we thought would be helpful to everybody working with advocates. I can think of multiple occasions where David and I looked at each other and went, wow, that was amazing. I can certainly think of an event at a DoubleTree in Las Vegas where we literally heard one of the greatest clotheslines of all time out of one of our students, which was, as I recall, but what's your plan B? And I know you're all listening to this going, well, is it really that great a clothesline? It's the greatest clothesline David and I heard simultaneously in one of our events in the back of the room, where it was said of, yeah, you're right. I hope you keep your house. What's your plan B? Think about it, because I'm trying to put holes into this hole. There isn't a plan B. Like, we can get around this, David. Like, this is all going to blow over, and COVID is a joke. It was really 5G, and it's all kind of not real. right? We really haven't been on lockdown. I haven't seen my daughter in 2 months because I live at the beach. People come to the beach. I am a carrier. I believe that because my mother is a doctor who told me, stay in your house, feel free to walk around, don't go see your daughter. Just, you can't. I cannot. I'm around people all the time because I live at the beach. And the reality is, you can make a decision. Everybody who's listening to this, everybody who's on the actual coaching call, David and I have worked diligently to try to turn you guys into advocates to working with people. Did I miss anything in that?
I don't think you did.
Was it strangely touching coming out of my mouth?
I'm reaching for the tissue.
By the way, I can make a pizza from scratch. Yay. Thank you, YouTube. With that said, go to honish.com. Again, tomorrow I am doing a webinar with Fred Solomon. We're going to talk about forbearance agreements and the credit implications, whether or not you can lend. Go to Lee Honish, LeeHonish, webinar.com. I've already set it all up. It'll take you to a Facebook page. We're doing a Zoom meeting. I'm going to be, for those of you who've never seen it, David has, I'm going to do Lee Honish, Old School Banker. I've done it now on about 5 different radio shows, and everybody eats it up with a fork. I don't know why. I don't know why you guys don't know what an asset manager looks like, but David has. And am I still an authentic asset manager? Have I lost my touch? I think I should apply, David. I feel like I need a real job being an asset manager again.
Well, be careful what you ask for.
Yeah, no, actually, I've had this talk. People, I've said this to a couple of friends. They've asked me, why don't you get a real job being a banker again? I said, being an asset manager sucks. You literally have to look into the eyes on the phone, figuratively, of a homeowner, someone in distress, and go, no. And real estate agents don't have the training. I get that we've been doing our training for a while, and I've been teaching people since 2007 about distressed properties. People do not approach the bank the correct way. You just don't. And in that case, they should call home loan advocates. David, insert gratuitous plug.
They should, and they can do that at 805-413-8000, 805-413-8000.
Man, I killed it on this show, David. I killed this episode. Everybody join me tomorrow, 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, and we will talk about it. What the credit implications are, what it really means to a lender. Go to Lee Honish webinar and join me at 9. Look forward to seeing you there.